We created this session because in survey after survey, the people who come to Buffalo State College in terms of what is motivating you to seek college education, the most common response is career advancement, that people are looking to advance their careers, and yet a liberal arts college is not a vocational school, that if you went to a culinary institute, you know that when you leave you would be a chef, and that if you went to an automobile mechanics school, you would leave and you would be a mechanic. Very often in the majors in the School of Arts and Humanities, these are the majors where your friends, your family find out that you're in the philosophy department and they care about you a lot and they go, oh great, what are you going to do with that? Right? That's always the question. So the question is, before we invest all this time, all this money, all this angst in a bachelor's degree in communication, philosophy, religion, English, theater, art history, music, what are we getting at the end of it? How are careers made if you start in a place like that? Well, if I can give you a few examples you'll begin to get a sense that careers, especially today, seldom go from here to zoom there. Alfonso O'Neill White, who is the CEO of Health Now, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York, one of the most powerful, influential men in Western New York, presumably making a decent living, was a philosophy major. And the woman who was the first woman to be the CEO of Hewlett-Packard, all those computers, all of that office technology, all that money. Medieval history. Okay. The chief accountant for Buffalo State College, Rebecca Schenck, we all know her. BA art. All right. So how did that happen? What were they thinking? Were they thinking at all? Well, it's a different attitude toward education, and for many people kind of an adjustment. And I'll tell you that when families who are sending their kids to Princeton, to Vassar, to Harvard, this is a question that never comes up because they understand the history of how careers are made, which is a combination of expanding the talents you have, acquiring skills you don't have, accessing opportunities that enable you to use these aptitudes, and then acquiring connections along the way, and not in a bad way, not in a nepotistic sort of way, but the kind of connections that if you had a summer internship at a TV studio, though you be an English major or a philosophy major, and they like you, they would hire you. I think of a graduate of our college, a major in communication, and this woman has now gone on to this is Deborah Oppenheimer, who she has an Academy Award, she has an Oscar. While she was in college, happily majoring in communication, she got involved in the student government and she helped book and plan all of the concerts on campus. And she got herself a summer internship at a TV studio, and her mother was aghast because, you know, her lovely immigrant mother, and her daughter had a job sharpening the pencils for the office, and not just making the coffee, but going down to the corner store to buy the filters, and it's like, what's going on here? Well, she said, all right, though I am sharpening the pencils, I am at a TV studio, and if anybody ever reaches for a pencil, it is going to be sharp. And if they ever want a cup of coffee, they're going to know that it is well-made coffee and it is fresh, and that, hello, Deborah Oppenheimer is the one who sharpened the pencil and the one who made it, because now what are they learning? She's reliable. She's responsible. She's enthusiastic. These are the aptitudes. 95% of any job you learn at the job, not in college. So what are you learning in college? Well, you are learning self-confidence. You are learning to interact with other people like yourself, people different from yourself. You are learning to work through problems. You are learning to solve problems as a member of a group or by yourself. You are learning to engage in research. You are learning to access your creativity. You are learning how to access information and creatively to work through situations in a safe, nurturing, supportive environment where we exist to create opportunities for students. And not just on this campus, but beyond this campus, which is why it's terrific to be in Buffalo, because I think Buffalo is the most accessible city in North America. That if you were interested in radio, by the end of the week, I could have you connected to somebody who would let you, perhaps the first time on a volunteer basis, but doing something in radio or television or human services or the arts or the not-for-profits or something corporate, something in software. It's accessible. Buffalo is the kind of place where we can get on the phone and well, our faculty lives here, interacts in that way, and has made their own careers that kind of way. So that is how careers are made, so that when I get these, and often we meet a student, sometimes we'll get the student who's very motivated from the time they're a freshman, and they'll show up in English or philosophy, and frequently they'll do this little jog where they'll say, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. And I find later, but I really hate kids. But my family, at least, while they were supporting this, they felt, okay, you can major in English. At least at the end, we get a teacher, which is, you know, best profession in the world, teaching. Best profession in the world, but not for everybody, right? Which is, and I also get them coming in. The business department is chock-a-block full of people who find their way to the arts and humanities after they just can't stand it anymore, because they thought, okay, what I really want to do is own my own business, so I'll major in business. But they hate the accounting, the business law. Well, if you talk to the director of our Small Business Development Center who works with entrepreneurs, she says, no entrepreneurs come from the business department. These are people who think in an ordered way. Entrepreneurs are crazy. You're going to find them in the School of Arts and Humanities. The people with ideas. They'll hire a business manager. You follow me? So don't be upset if you're having difficulty explaining to your family your deep-seated love of ceramics, you know, that this is going to work out, that you're going to make a living, and perhaps even a good one, and a better living than if you start out in something which you do not like and for which you do not have any aptitude. And the other thing that happens is people look at those career surveys. While they're hiring a lot of engineers, I'll become an engineer. But you hate math. You know, somebody's going to become an engineer, but it's not going to be you. You know, go ahead with the theater major. You know, go ahead with philosophy. With philosophy, you'll learn to argue like for days. We've got a lawyer coming. You know something that. And Julian took our philosophy group to the ethics bowl, first time ever, where they like smeared Dartmouth in the first round. You know, Marist. You know, boom. Because Buff State, our students, they can argue. They won't stop even after they've lost. You know, just you know, keep arguing. Okay. Craig, you want to add something? And we'll introduce ourselves, we'll talk at you a little bit, and then we're going to come around, or you can come to us, and we're going to talk and find out what are you thinking about, okay? All right? And of course, how Buff State is just, I think it's the best college in, just for undergraduates. I'm a UB graduate school. I like this school because the faculty, for better or worse, we will know your name. Okay? And that's what characterizes this college. Undergraduate education is us connecting undergraduate students, and frequently very young people, to opportunities and to their true heart's desire. And we will know your name. Okay? All right. Craig, you want to talk?
Good morning, everybody. I think Mr. Chase has done a wonderful job of laying a foundation for why all of us should study the arts and take the arts seriously. I'd like to begin by a little story and then just say a few things. The little story, which became very important to my wife and me, is that a couple of years ago, we were looking for a painter. And I refused to paint, and my wife doesn't like to paint, so we started making calls. We had a couple of recommendations, but we really didn't know very much about who the good painters were out there. We interviewed about 3 or 4 people, and one of the people we interviewed was very well spoken, very polite, and during the course of the conversation, he indicated that he liked to read. Well, I don't know if he was the best painter we could possibly have hired. If you'll take a look at me, you will understand why it's very difficult for me to assess the quality of painting. But in any event, he seems to have done the job very well. He was an English major at Buffalo State College, as a matter of fact. And all this by way of just echoing what Tony said, that we don't always come to our careers in the straightest possible path. So that's the little story for you. About our accessibility, I used to live in New York City. Maybe a lot of you still do live in or near New York City. Is that true for a number of you, maybe?
You're getting nodding heads.
I'll bet it is, yeah. Oh, you can't do this and you can't do this with me, right? It's kind of tough. I lived there, and I used to think that New York City was the most wonderful city in the world, and no other city even came close. New York City has more of everything. New York City has more money than Buffalo has more transportation, has more concerts going on every day than Buffalo does. But try getting things done in New York City, and try to make contacts. People in New York City are often too busy walking right past you to get their job done. The point is, at Buffalo, you're absolutely right. If someone wants to get something done, or if someone has a question, chances are, if you call somebody up, that person is going to have some time for you. And I think that's so important to remember. As Mr. Chase was talking to us about the arts, you'll notice he also was talking to us about inquiring minds. We teach critical thinking here at Buffalo State College. And critical thinking is just as important when you're sculpting a piece or when you're painting a picture as it is when you're designing a plan for a railroad engine, for instance. It's just that we're looking at different things. And don't undervalue the kinds of skills that critical thinkers have, because they can be applied to many areas. A friend of mine who teaches a course in writing for the professions used to ask her students, she's no longer teaching the course, to go and talk to professions where writing you wouldn't think was important. And the students would go out, and interview people, and they discovered, to their great surprise, there's virtually no profession that kept people away from writing entirely. Even people you wouldn't associate with writing, such as plumbers, painters, they have to write letters supporting themselves, talking about what kind of a job they can do, right? And writing is going to be important no matter where you look at it, or no matter how you look at it. The other point I want to make before turning it over to another colleague is, and I think all of you agree, by being here with you this morning, we're accountable. If you decide to come to Buffalo State College and something is bothering you, or you have a question about something you don't understand, or you just want to say, wow, I'm glad I came to Buffalo State College. Sitting up here right now are folks who are willing to take your call anytime and to direct you in the right way. Just an example of how accessible Buffalo is. Dr. Cole, would you like to talk next? From philosophy?
Okay, I'm Julian Cole from philosophy. So, I mean, my colleagues have said a great deal. I think what I want to emphasize is just how important the kind of skills that you're going to get in a liberal education here are. I mean, I think consistently people that are coming out of the humanities, out of the arts, are doing incredibly well in a variety of different careers. And why is that? Because we're the place that are going to teach them how to think critically. We're going to be giving them analytic skills. We're going to be giving them skills that are going to be usable in any field. And that's, I think, why it's so valuable to get the kind of education you can get in arts and humanities, because your career path is going to change. You might think you're going to do this, but all the data is saying that you're going to have 4 or 5 different careers for most people now throughout the course of their life. You need to be adaptable. You need to be able to take the situation as it is and assess it and make decisions, critically evaluate how you're going to respond to the changes that happen in your life. And if you've been given the skills that you can get in the arts and humanities, you're going to be able to do that. And so you're going to find yourself successful wherever life takes you.
To amplify what Julian was saying, when the economy tanked last year, boom, the only people getting jobs were liberal arts majors. Why? Because, well, abruptly they were cutting back on the specific professions, but the liberal arts people were showing up and saying, I can do anything. It's like, okay, you're the one we want. We want the person who can do anything.
Yeah. Do you? Yeah.
I shall echo what these gentlemen have been saying. We are actually in school today preparing for jobs, some of which have not yet been labeled. We don't even know how they'll be described. And that's an exciting time to be educated, but all the greater reason to be educated in the foundation of critical thinking, the liberal arts that people have been praising for the last few minutes. Anywhere in the world, and you will be global citizens, we are already, you will be able to be a problem solver with a liberal arts foundation. Any of these new professions that have yet to be labeled will call on your best skills as critical thinkers. And so I'm excited to be here and to be part of that tradition. It's definitely part of my past. My mother was a second-generation immigrant, and she was concerned when I majored in English, which I loved, and I have the best job in the world. I teach English teachers and pre-service teachers about something I'm passionate for and think about all the time. And we do use writing to show what we've learned, but also to help us learn. We write all the time. We reflect on our learning. We actually do things with writing that makes it fun. We don't actually dread writing at all. It's no longer a bitter pill. And we want that for our students, and we want that for ourselves. We get excited about social writing and working together with peer editing. So writing has changed. It's not ominous any longer. The other thing I wanted to say, since I get the last word in a sense, is it's true. We do know our students. We're bigger and bigger as a college, but we still have a small college feeling. You have to believe me, what's being said is true. We know our students, and we take advising them very seriously. We do want to know what their questions are, and we want answers right away. We respond to the emails that we get and so forth. So that's my last word on this austere panel.